Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of our Tales from Tech Support. In today's episode, the only call that matters. I don't understand. It was running fine and then I happened. My customer's laptop shut off for no apparent reason LOL. I don't want an extra layer of security. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. The only call that matters. A few years ago I worked as tech support for one of the largest tech companies in the world. I'd handled thousands of calls up to this specific one. Some are probably a great story of their own, but it doesn't matter. This is the only one worth telling. I actually really enjoyed that job. A lot of it probably was because I was rather good at it, not to sound full of myself, but it's rather important to the story. Most of the calls I received were not great technical mysteries you needed an engineering degree to figure out. They were about the people, and their lack of basic knowledge and understanding of the confusing technology, in their words. So I helped them. We reset passwords, restarted computers, and plugged in chargers. All while keeping the conversation flowing and feeling natural, but always steering the conversation in the direction needed. It was small talk with a purpose, and I was great at it. I was always in control, except this one time. Not often, but sometimes someone called in trying to get information that they had no right to. They were never successful. There are systems and procedures protecting against this, and they can't be argued with or broken. And I followed them to the letter. I received a call from a woman, which I early in the conversation believed were one of these calls. She asked me if I could help her get into her son's phone. My mind instantly went to that this kid had probably done something wrong, and the proof was on the phone, and I was supposed to help her get it. As it was not my job to judge bad parenting, I asked her if she knew any of the passcodes he might have used. Since she probably wouldn't, my next step would stop her chances at getting access to what her son probably wouldn't want her to see. She of course replied she did not know, and that she did not want to completely lock the phone with entering the wrong code several times. This led naturally into me explaining that to get access to the phone it needs to be restored, and that this would also erase all the content. She quickly replied that she did not want to erase it, she wanted the photos on it. So my earlier suspicion was confirmed. I need to clarify that up to this point this had been a completely normal conversation, nothing unusual, other than the somewhat unusual request. With me wanting to end the conversation seeing we weren't getting anywhere, I told her the obvious solution she'd probably want to avoid. Just ask your son if he can unlock the phone for you. I have heard the expression that words can paint a picture, but I really hadn't understood the meaning up to this point. There was a moment of silence on the other end before she replied, "I can't, he is dead." The way these words were said gripped me to my core. It was not the words themselves, and it was not said while crying or with the intent to feel sorry for her. It was something bare and raw I had never experienced before. She showed me a piece of her soul in that moment, and my own welcomed hers and felt everything. For her something more precious than all else was just gone, and nothing could replace it, but she needed my help to treasure the memories. In this tiny moment I felt more connected to another human being than I ever have before. We both must have felt this moment in connection, because a moment later she told her story. It was as natural as talking to a good friend, and in my heart I wanted to listen, and just be there for her. Her son had been struggling for a while, and she had done all in her power to help him, and make it better. 2 days prior to her talking to me she had found her son in the woods behind their house. He had hanged himself from a tree. He was 15 years old. At this point my mind was not at work, following the rules and regulations. I was helping another human being, and I did everything I could possibly think of to help her get access to her son's photos. I probably would have been fired if my boss knew all the procedures I didn't follow that day, and I hadn't cared if I had. Unfortunately at the end I was not able to help her get access, the security at that point was just too well encrypted for my level of skill. Regardless, she was very grateful for me trying to help in what way I could. I do not remember her name, but that does not matter. It didn't then, so why now? I think of her now and then and hope she has found some way to brighten the missing part she showed me. I don't understand. It was running fine and then I happened. I work in a very specific industry, so I will remain vague about a lot of product details. 80% of the work is troubleshooting over the phone with our dealers located all over the country. The other 20% is showing up in person to an emergency where we explain the chain of command to the inanimate machine refusing to work. That is, we get a chain and beat the machine with it until it understands who is in command and starts working again. My co-workers were some of the most excellent people I have ever had the pleasure of working with. There was the old-timer whose employee number was a single digit and had likely broken more things over the course of his career than I will ever fix. There was Deadpool, a semi-chaotic super genius who engineering wouldn't let look at the source code because he might get ideas. There was the boss man who inspired confidence in everyone because he did the same work as us and had been around long enough to have a double-digit employee number. There was Captain America who looked exactly like Steve Rogers and could have been a male model if he could stomach dealing with useless people. Instead, he worked with us and used a mix of mind reading and Fonzie-style jukebox banging to resurrect every machine from the dead. Lastly, there was the guy from El Salvador who spoke excellent English but had a bad ear for accents, so I would have to sometimes translate Southern English to regular English for him. We'll call him the Swede. Since I want a cool name too, I'll call myself. So no shit, there I was 2 weeks after getting hired, trying to figure out if I'm holding one of the manuals upside down or maybe sideways when the old-timer comes over to my desk. Old-timer, the neighbor called and can't get his machine to run. He wants one of us to sneak away from the phone and fix it for him. Why don't you take the intern over there and show him how to remote start it and check the error codes? Take my truck. Tools are in the back. Boss man, don't hesitate to call if you need anything. Deadpool, one of us will come collect your bodies in about half an hour. The intern and I drive half a mile to meet the neighbor and get some details on why the machine won't run. Neighbor, I don't understand what happened. It was running fine this morning and now the motors won't move more than a few inches. I don't know if we fried a sensor or maybe lost VFD communication. He keeps coming back to how it worked earlier and he can't understand what went wrong. He couldn't think of any more important information. This is important for later, so I proceeded to show the intern how to start the machine remotely without incurring maiming, injury, explosions or anything else fun. There were no error codes, but the tension compression switch had killed the machine. I grabbed a wrench and showed him how to manually let the tension off. Then we started the machining again. The motors revved up and got faster and faster before there was a loud unsettling clang, and it shut down in tension again. Since it only made scary noises and nothing actually broke, we decided to do this 3 or 4 more times to see if we could learn anything new. And we did. The controls and sensors were all working perfectly. Unfortunately, sensors are only as good as the inputs they are given, and we noticed 2 motors that would always spin the opposite direction from the others. The sensors would see tension build and have the VFD increase the frequency of the offending motors to make them catch up to the others. Unfortunately, this just makes the problem worse when the motor isn't even spinning the right way. I gave the intern a quick lesson on changing direction for 3-phase motors, which involves swapping some wires. We hit the go button and waited for the startup sequence to reach the spinning motor section. While we were waiting, Captain America arrived to see if we were still alive, and or collect whatever remained if we somehow came into contact with 480 volts worth of angry pixies. The machine started running like a dream. Captain America went on his way, and I went over to talk to the neighbor. Myself, we fixed it, but I don't understand how it was even working earlier. We had to actually move some wires to get all the motors spinning the same direction. Neighbor, when I said it was running earlier, I meant before we took it apart, replaced the spindles, and wired the motors back up to it. Myself, okay. Bye. Screaming internally. Back at the office, I told my story to the team, and they didn't seem surprised at all. Old-timer, Yeah, that neighbor has created an art form of telling you everything under the sun except for the one relevant piece of information. My customer's laptop shut off for no apparent reason, lol. So this happened a few years ago. As stated in an earlier post, in my town, I am a locally known computer guy. On the side from my full-time job, I build systems for people, fix systems, set up new systems, etc. One evening I am at home, and a call came in. It is a customer I had helped many times in 2 years prior, helped her get a laptop and set it up for her and set up her wireless router after her satellite internet got installed. Satellite was her only option as she was in a very rural area. Upon answering, my customer says I have a serious problem. I ask what was going on. She proceeds to tell me that she was using her laptop, everything was working great, and all of a sudden, it just shut itself off. Thinking to myself that that is strange, I started going through the diagnostics. I asked her first off what she was doing when it happened. She said she was just playing on Facebook. My next thought was maybe it was sitting on her lap or on blankets or something, and it overheated, causing it to shut off for safety's sake. So I asked if she was just sitting at her desk. She said, "No, I was laying in bed." Ah, okay. Now we are getting somewhere. I told her that maybe the airflow was obstructed and it shut off. I asked her if the bottom felt hot. She said no, not really. So then I said, make sure that the power adapter did not come loose from the laptop or at the power brick part. This is where it gets good. Her response was, "What power adapter?" I said, "The power for the laptop, make sure it didn't come out of the laptop." She says, and I am not joking, "I don't have a power adapter for this laptop." I am confused. I asked her what does she mean she don't have a power adapter for the laptop. She replied by saying, "Remember when you set this up, you set up wireless. I don't have a power adapter for it." Before I went further into this, I asked her if she usually lays in bed with her laptop. She said no, that this was the first time she removed it from the desk and took it to her bedroom. So I told her that I think the battery died and told her to take the laptop back to the desk and locate the power plug and plug the laptop back in. She argued and told me that I was not listening to her or understanding her, and she insisted that there is not and never has been a power plug for the laptop. In the most professional and strategic was possible, I informed her that there is not such thing as wireless power, and that what she was referring to was wireless internet. She insisted that she has never had a power plug for the laptop, but she took it back to the desk. So after some explaining and describing the power plug and where to plug it in, she finally gets it plugged in. I tell her to hit the power button, and what do you know, it powers up. Problem solved. I explained to her that all laptops have to have a power adapter to keep the battery charged, and that I assumed that when she took the laptop off of the desk, she inadvertently unplugged it, and after some time the battery died, causing it to shut down. At this point she was satisfied with my answer and thanked me. Hold on. It continues. LOL. So about now, she starts brainstorming and trying to think about how the power adapter could have come unplugged. I again tell her that when she picked it up off of the desk and walked away, the plug probably just popped out. It was like she did not even hear my explanation. She came up with her own theory. I swear I cannot make this stuff up. She says, "Oh, I think I know how that came unplugged." Interested, I asked how. She explains that earlier in the day, she noticed her internet went out, and she continues to explain that she knew the issue was snow piled up on the satellite dish. She explained how she got her broom, went outside, and swept the snow off of the dish. That is all she said, lol. I sat there waiting until she followed it up with, "So yeah, I probably knocked the power cable loose when I did that." Not wanting to deal with this anymore, I simply said, "Yeah, probably," and ended the call. I could not bring myself to even charge her for the service call. I will be posting more of these as I think of them. Hope you enjoyed. I don't want an extra layer of security. Reposting this because it was removed for not containing story. I'm adding on a story of just one of these interactions. For context, I work for an MSP with numerous support contracts. I am part of a team that is contracted to work on site indefinitely at a large university, in their staff ICT support. They have their own in-house student ICT support. University has been rolling out a new multi-factor authentication (MFA) system due to some past cyber attacks, phishing, and dumb staff members that freely gave out their passwords. It's pretty simple: register on our web portal, and it links with the MFA app on your phone, or a rolling code hardware token if you don't have a compatible mobile. I had forgotten to mention how the app works. You have the option of a push notification, which has accept or deny options on it, or there's TOPT codes on the app that refresh every 30 or so seconds. The hardware token is an OTP system as well, but it only generates and displays a code when you press the button on it. I was in the test group and have been enrolled in MFA since its initial deployment. I have never had any issues. Now, this has not been mandatory yet, but heavy recommended. We've had quite a few staff enroll, with minimal issues. Some hiccups here and there, but that's to be expected. Now, recently, there's been some emails going out to all staff with information surrounding MFA, including links to articles on what it's about and how to enroll. You see, we're making it mandatory in a few weeks, with some exceptions on a case-by-case basis, but the staff don't know that. Cue the influx of staff calling the service desk. Are these emails legitimate? It looks like spam. What exactly is MFA? Why do I need it? How do I enroll in MFA? I don't have a smartphone. My phone is too old / not compatible. This adds an extra step into my routine, it's so inconvenient. I enrolled in MFA now, completely unrelated system is not working. It's all your fault. Story time. Here's one particular interaction I had with a very snobbish staff member. Not many people like dealing with this guy, as he comes off as an I know more than you type of person, and doesn't tolerate anyone who is not self-confident enough. SU equals snobby user. Me equals me. We had just finished rounding off a ticket where he reported a legitimate security concern he had regarding his account. Our primary recommendations were to change his password and enroll in MFA. He was not thrilled. So, as far as MFA is concerned, it will not work for me from home because I have no cell signal. None. 0. That will cause a major problem if I need to work from home. Me, well, you do not need to rely on cell signal, as it runs through a mobile app, which can run fine over Wi-Fi, which you are using for your laptop at home. I had not considered that an app is required. To be honest, I do not trust most apps for security and stability reasons. What are the OS version limits? Me, gives version compatibility limits. Well, I only have OS version lower than the minimum required, which is 4 years old. Me, since your device is not compatible, we will need to issue you a hardware token gives detailed info on how these work. I assume the dongle will be USB-C? User has a laptop that only has USB-C ports. Do I need to switch the dongle to whatever computer I am using? Say, for example, I am in a hotel lobby in country on the other side of the world, can I use this same dongle? Me, this token is not a dongle. It is a self-contained device that generates a code when you press the button, which you then enter into the prompt on your computer. I've seen these before. They use Bluetooth, correct? Me, no, they do not have any connection of any kind to any other device. They are fully self-contained. They have a button and a screen which displays the code. Okay, one last question. What happens if the battery runs flat? Say I am overseas, about to go into a meeting, and it is 3 a.m., local time of university. How can I get access when no code is generated? Unfortunately, these are sealed units with unreplaceable batteries. The battery, however, is designed to last 5 to 7 years with average usage. If you are concerned that it will run dry, you can replace it, say, every 3 to 4 years. Okay, so there's no guarantee it won't fail, and there's no warning before it fails. The takeaway from this is that I will not enroll in MFA. Thank you. /reminder, MFA will become mandatory. I promptly sent that ticket over to my team lead, as I was sure there would be a complaint incoming, and was told not to worry about it. My team lead told me I had the patience of a saint in answering his questions, even he wouldn't have been able to make it that far.